Good morning, Hallowed Haven family. This is After Dawn, the show where we all sit down to have a cup of coffee with the cast, crew, and creators behind the Hallowed Haven Studios productions. I'm Vironz, and today I do not have a co-host because Saul is on vacation. Ooh, clapping noises, yay. Um, and today we're talking about season 2 of Hunter Wayfarer, episode 5. In this episode, we got to meet another mage who tried to heal Isabel's curse, and then we got see a lot of action from our friend Cricket, and the draining of the cult's accounts, financial ones at least, and a final bombshell seeing the speaker and Katie Lynn in person. Personally, I felt like there was a lot of brooding and darkness at the beginning of the episode, but that's to be expected from Hunter. But like we just like ramped after we hit our break, we just had that like absolute ramping up of pace, and then we got that final bombshell, seeing the speaker and Katie Lynn, and then also seeing the speaker knows who Piper is, which blew my mind. But I'm not the only one here today. Say hello, my guests.
Hi,
Hello, hello.
it's me. I'm back. You can't get rid of me.
No, we can't get rid of you, Termite. You can never get rid of termites. And we have our lovely Nico.
Hello. I thought you were going to go full Taylor Swift, be like, we don't have that copyright. No.
What? So I have a question. So we're doing our little questions about players and such. What's the inspiration behind Cricket as like a character?
So as an SPC, I got handed I don't want to say a bare bones because that's not quite right. It's not like I got handed nothing and was told to create something. I got handed the general idea. And I got lucky. Our wonderful storyteller was like, what kind of things do you think you can do? And I was like, well, I like computers and I like playing hackers. She was like, sold. Here you go. Here's your concept. I was like, sweet. And beyond that, it's a mix of archetypes that I like when I'm playing hacker characters. It is a little bit of the confidence and swagger I wish I had in my day to day, especially when dealing with my own skills. I am learning coding and programming myself, and do have a little bit of cybersecurity knowledge, not extensive, but a little bit. And so I like to bring that in when I'm playing a character that is dealing on the other side of cybersecurity rather than protecting, trying to break through everything. So BP let me really, really run with a lot of that, which is fun.
So what's your like favorite system in the whole tabletop RPG world to be a hacker in?
God. It feels like a cop-out to say that I don't know that I have one, but I have not found a system that hits 100%. Like I have found in like World of Darkness, I like because I have the tiered challenges I can do. I've not played in Shadowrun, though I should. Should is a strong word. Though I do want to at some point. Cyberpunk was all right. Nothing. I don't think a lot of the stuff that I enjoy about computers and software translates really well into tabletop in a way that is satisfying. The closest I've got is a solo RPG that uses the Carta system because it does kind of mimic having these nodes that you're going back and forth between. But that's a solo RPG and not necessarily something I'm going to chill around the table and play with like 4 of my buddies, you know?
I think the closest you can get, at least Shadowrun hacking wise, is going to be if you play any of the Shadowrun Returns games, Actual Returns, Dragonfall, or Hong Kong. Those, I think, are the closest to the actual. It is almost the idealized version of what the tabletop RPG was going for. I still think you should play it just to see what it's like, but it's a lot of math. It's a lot more math than you might realize in Shadowrun.
Okay. I actually have those downloaded, so I'll have to check those out soon.
Hong Kong is my favorite, but I do also suggest just playing them all in order because they are. I don't know. I really enjoy them. I've met the creators a few times. They're quite nice people. um. So, Termite, how much of like a
Hi.
hand did you have with like Cricket's creation,
uh, their creation,
or at
absolutely
least the
nothing.
idea, I should say?
Uh, Zero input. There was zero input from my end until the idea was put in stone, and the discussions about how our characters know each other came up. Um, but beyond that, I was basically told, "Hey, so here's this contact that you have. Uh, discuss how you've been, how you've been working with them. What kind of stuff you've worked on."
So, what is the past of Cricket and Piper then,
Uh,
if you're at liberty to discuss?
Nothing legal.
the it's the good back and forth of having someone who is always behind the computer, does not want to get out there, and having someone who is like, no, I'll be boots on the ground, all right, I can do this. And we discussed a little bit about kind of after I had formed the character, but before coming into this, like who what purviews do people have, like where do people focus, so that there wasn't too much stepping on toes, because that can be no fun from like a listener perspective when you have two characters who do the same thing 100% of the time. And like also no fun from a player perspective, because it's like, well, I want to do this thing, well, also I can do this thing but no differently. So we discussed a little bit of that, and then realized that no, if Cricket's behind the computer, then Piper being out in the field, like it makes sense that they could lean on each other in that way. And so that kind of naturally developed that it was like, hey, I need you to go check out a thing for me. Or, hey, I have this data. I don't have the time to sit in one place and just let it run. Can you do
Yep.
that?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is Piper is really good at casting the net wide, especially because she has global access, so she can get whatever the fuck she wants at any time. But she doesn't really have the time to actually look into it, and that's where Cricket comes in, because they have the time, so they can actually dig into the data and find everything about what's important about it, what's not, that kind of thing.
All right. Um. So, I guess just because I was re-listening the other day, um, have there been talks about developing a character sheet for Cricket, or is that just something we're still kind of in the air about?
I would not say no to developing a character sheet for Cricket. However, right now they're still more ST controlled, more loosey goosey than that.
Okay, okay, that's fair. So, Nico, we also have this. We have a tradition when we get new people onto our show of asking what their favorite product is in the World of Darkness line. Now, what is yours?
Am I stuck to specifically World of Darkness, like Old World and the fifth edition stuff, or anything, all the White Wolf, all the Onyx Path, all of it?
If you mention anything Onyx Path and BP hears this, she might hunt you down and fight you,
I
but
was gonna say Onyx Path is a dangerous territory, but I might allow it.
She actually knows this because it's not something that's replicated in Old World. They do have obviously Wraith cover spirits, but
Mhm.
nothing covers the very fun what if ghostly possession kind of stuff. Geist the Sin Eater is easily my favorite thing
Oh,
that has come
no,
out
that
of.
Okay,
that's fair. Geist is cool as
that is
hell.
fair. Yeah.
Yeah, like you die, you come back with a really powerful death spirit that's just hitchhiking in your body, and now you can see ghosts and shit. Uh, is great. I was in a phenomenal game where we were in the underworld for a decent amount of time, and the ST had a very good grasp on what makes the underworld weird. It was also the only time I've ever used politics in a game, because we had to use politics, and one of our players had to use intelligence and politics to kind of go through a bunch of red tape while we had the Kerberoy on our tail. It was very good.
That's yeah. I don't think I've ever used politics in a game ever.
Yeah, I will say, I think
As
you're
a role.
I think you're safe talking about that because it's not something that Onyx Path ruins.
That's honestly fair. Yeah, it's
It's very fair.
the one downside, at least in first edition. I haven't had a chance to play in second edition, but I have read it. Um, actually, that's true. I ran a one shot at a convention, but not like as a campaign. Um, the one downside of first edition is just how many power sets there are, which is like a good and a bad, right? You can really get into the weeds and make a character that covers just about any ghost archetype, like haunting archetype you can think of. Um, but also it takes up a solid chunk of the rule book is just, and if you have the boneyard and the pirate key, it does this. But if you have the cold wind, it does this. And if you have just like, dear God.
Yeah, that sounds very very old school video game puzzle logic. Just like I have this shoestring and a fucking book, and now I have some other thing that does a very bizarre thing to unlock a door.
Yeah, it feels weird to apply crunch to like to any of the World of Darkness comparative to like say D&D or something, but it was definitely crunchier both with the systems and the numbers and the like which roles you needed for what, as well as just having extra rules because you had the baseline rules for all the different like haunts and then also had specialized rules based on how you were unlocking it. And I think they really streamlined that in second edition, which is nice. Anyway, I could go on about Geist for like hours, so I will stop myself there.
So, Termite, how's it feeling having played Piper for 5 sessions now, 5 full sessions? Well, 5.5 sessions because I know a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh, she's angry. She's real angry. But also she's found herself being the mom of the group, which I think is more me as a player falling into that role consistently.
Did it surprise you to like fall into that role? Because I mean,
Um,
yeah, I'm seeing it too. Like Piper is very yeah, very mom like.
I it wasn't intended when I first started building her character. Um, but as like play progressed, it feels like it makes sense.
All right. Yeah, it's. I mean, if you look back on the previous season, and you could even see that development in the past few episodes. So, like, she is just kind of taking over this caring role for a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna transition us into start drinking our cups, which honestly, for my coffee that I'm having this morning, I am literally down to the last eighth of, and I'm a bit sad. But otherwise, I'm still pretty happy because I'm doing this. But I'm gonna ask questions about the last episode more specifically now. So, what are the thoughts behind Delphi for Piper? Like, what is she thinking about Delphi?
She's definitely cautious. Um, Less because of whoever or whatever is running this database, but more the fact that because this database exists, there is always the chance that somebody could find it, which could cause problems for one, the database could be completely destroyed, and two, it is not out completely outside of the realm of possibility that things get traced back to Piper, which then brings even more people that are after her, which is not something that she needs right now.
Oh, actually, so I did not prep this question, but this one just popped in my head. With the Umbra being brought into the fold because of Werewolf being, released very soon, in about a month from recording time, are we thinking that it could be some sort of like data spirit that's just harvesting all this stuff and is interacting with the human world?
Could be. It could also be like a virtual adept mage that set all this up. It could be a lot of things.
I think the idea of the virtual dead mage is a little bit scarier.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because now you've dealt with a mage of one who I'm going to assume is part of the crafts, the Disparate Alliance, if they're keeping that in Mage 5th edition, which obviously we have no clue. Because we just saw that last episode, and then we have Gun Shop, who knows a lot more of the traditions and seems to be part of the traditions, at least in my eyes.
Actually, that's not my place to talk about.
No spoilers.
Well,
Can't talk spoilers.
I'm not sure if it's something that's going to come up, but also, wait until you get Lynn on. See if he can talk about it.
I was told I am not able to.
Shame.
I was told I am not able to. So we will just have to see later. Now, how many enemies does Piper have?
Mechanically, one. Backstory wise, well, there's the hunter organization that's after her.
Mm-hmm.
There's the vampire that's after her. Who definitely isn't now also after the entire group, and I'm sure that's fine. And then technically not after her because she got rid of the identity that they were after, and adopted a new one. But the federal government also after her, because she caused a lot of problems for them.
Well, how federal of the federal government? Are we talking like the deep state, or are we talking just plain old federal government?
We're talking like her previous identity was labeled as a domestic terrorist level of the
Ah,
federal government is after her.
okay. That's pretty fair. That's pretty fair. So Cricket definitely has a lot more, like, I mean, backstory wise, definitely has a lot more. But are we thinking that mechanical enemy is now after Cricket because of you?
Yes, I'm fairly certain that because I talked with BP, the mechanical enemy is the one member of the hunter organization that is after her. And from the sounds of things, that is the person that is currently after Cricket.
Now, without too many spoilers, or preferably without any, are you able to describe who that might be?
The information I can give you is that they are an agent that goes by the name of Briar. As you may have gathered from the fact that they're really not creative with names.
Mm-hmm.
But
Briar, Green Briar.
beyond that, I don't think there's a whole lot more I can give you.
All right.
Just
So
looking forward.
how? Oh, go ahead.
See, I'm just looking forward to the day that like they decide to branch out from that, and like it ends up getting into the situation where it's like they use Thorn. We all look at Roseanne and are like, "Are you? Hey, no! Only one of you gets to. You get one of you pick. You can't both be using it."
Go like, no, or like, oh, it's your sister. She's the other Thorn.
Well, I don't think that's going to become an issue. I certainly hope that won't become an issue, but we'll see.
They start getting creative. It becomes a problem. But like, actually, it would be interesting if, especially as the group realizes that, like, oh, we've found the code that they're using. They just pick a color and then add Briar to it.
I mean, they kind of hinted at that, like they kind of decipher that on their own. It's green briar and black briar. What are they going to do next? Blue briar? Red briar?
I like the idea that as we finally get that pattern, they're like, okay, now we throw a curveball because you're looking for that pattern. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh shit.
Oak. Or fern.
And that's why pictures are also important. Because Piper knows what this guy looks like.
Oh.
And now Cricket does too, because she sent him a picture, or sent them a picture.
Yeah.
Is there going to be some actual hunting?
We'll see. Depends on how things go.
Okay.
Currently, Briar is very low on the list of priorities.
Well, yeah, the blank body is up there at the moment. They're becoming a bit of a problem. Well, and then the speaker too. Let's not forget about that. Which I really want to talk about that, but I can't just yet.
So I guess you have a new enemy for the enemy list. If the speaker knows your name, would that not put him on the enemy list as well?
I mean, probably.
But what if the speaker knew your previous name? Now that would be terrifying.
Oh, then my dark secret flaw becomes an infamy flaw.
Oh, you were responsible for the Chicago. No.
Not that one. There are a lot of riots attached to that previous name, though.
Fucking what's that joke that I see in media sometimes? I was responsible for the LA riots or something like that.
It was me the whole time.
So I got a question to ask both of you. Just because the cult has become very much a focus of the season so far. How does it feel to take down those financial accounts? How did that feel?
Well, we haven't actually done it yet.
Very close to
the trigger is ready to be pulled, but it
the gun's
hasn't.
cocked, the finger's on the trigger. It's pushing ever so slightly, but it's not there yet. But I mean, how does it feel though? How does it feel to be in that position?
I mean, I think it's fun because, one, this is something that hopefully might convince Arthur to not hate Piper, because she's actually fucking doing something for him, which is a whole nother thing that we can get into at a later time, probably when we have Scott on an episode that I'm on. But also, just generally the feeling that, oh, there's this thing going on, and if I wanted to, I could do something about it.
Well, I mean, you're actively working with Arthur to make sure it's done in the way that he's wanting it done, as to not piss him off.
Yeah.
So I feel like
it goes.
I feel like the thought in Piper's brain at the moment, at least her initial thought, was just to press delete on all of it. Just go okay, we're done. It's all gone.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then he realized, oh wait, fuck, hold up, let's not do that yet. Piper, hold up. Let's not delete everything and fuck with absolutely everybody in this. Some of those people are real people.
I mean, some of those people definitely also still hold some level of emotional attachment to Arthur.
Well, we know one does.
This is fine. I'm sure it'll all be fine.
Yeah, nothing could possibly go wrong.
Nothing ever goes wrong for hunters.
No, never.
Never.
Especially not when you're at danger level 4.
No, of course not. Anyway, how do y'all think the speaker will react to being called by his actual name?
If that's his actual name.
Well, I mean, actual name or not, I doubt he'll react well to being referred to by a name.
Yeah,
Other
after
than
spending
the
so
speaker.
long.
Yeah.
Oof. That'll be fun to find out.
I mean, possibly, maybe we find out next episode. We don't know. I can't wait. Honestly, this is kind of a good transition into our next section, which is freeform. Questions tailored towards what the fuck moments of the episode, controversies, rumors, love interests, etc. I invite you guys to ask me questions. I invite you guys to ask questions of each other, to ask BP questions, and other people next week, which I sort of have the guest list for. We don't know yet. But first, I mean, like, let's talk about the end of the episode. Piper flying her drone over to spy on the speaker, and then him saying hello to them. Like, am I the only one who lost their shit? Because I did actually message BP and go like, "Oh my fucking god!"
It wasn't necessarily what happened that made me be like, well, what the fuck, man? BP afterwards told us what she rolled.
Oh my god.
Because realistically, like, odds are the speaker probably shouldn't have noticed because I got 5 successes on the roll. BP rolled and rolled nearly straight 10s across the board. So he got
Wow.
9 successes.
Wow. I mean, are we feeling that possibly that the cat? I mean, we have this idea, at least I do, that the speaker might be some sort of mage. It's a possibility. Do we
I
have the
don't.
feeling that the cat might be a familiar?
Well, I don't think he's a mage.
It
Could be a
It's
demon.
it's possible, but yeah, I don't think
could
he's a
it,
mage.
I was like, I think some of the info that was passed along was he's definitely not a vampire. He's at least as far as the people that Cricket had info on, don't think he's a mage, don't think he's a fae. That doesn't necessarily mean he's not. It just means that the Second Inquisition doesn't think that, because that's where they got all their info,
Yeah,
or
I
not
mean,
all of it, but most of it.
if he is Fey, he's 100% unseelie. Like that goes without saying.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but at the same time, unseelie Fey aren't exactly very fond of people. And the guy runs a cult of regular people.
So,
Well, and
I mean,
So,
Faye's a little off the table, at least to me.
yeah, Fey is off the table. Vampire is definitely off the table.
Well, I mean, he was out in daylight, so we kind of know.
Out in
Unless they're
daylight,
really strong, but
out in daylight, the corpses had blood in them still.
there's just too much that's like, nah. Yeah. Demon got floated. Demon is a possibility, although I am less familiar with how demons function and especially how they might function in fifth ed, because a
ugh,
lot of the stuff.
I mean, I feel like that would be e- like 5-10 years away to even getting to demon, because they didn't even do demon until like Year of the Reckoning, I think, in the original run.
Yeah. Well, and demon tangential stuff hasn't been in any of the source material. Like, there's no mention of infernalism in any of the vampire stuff.
Yeah.
So, like, we don't even have hints as to how that might function. And, like, probably intentionally, probably because it is so far down the line if when they get to it. But because of that, and I never played in much of the old stuff, I'm like, it's a possibility, but I have less knowledge as to whether or not that is feasible than, say, maybe some people who are more familiar with how a lot of the old world demon stuff ran.
Frankly, all I know about demons is that they either take over a human body or they tie their, you know, corporeal being into an object and become an earthbound. And those are ones that typically have no humanity or sense of good. And they kind of just let torment take over them fully.
I have some
And
more things to go.
they, oh, what was that?
Oh no, I was just saying I have some good lore things to go read about. Not for this, for a game that I am running off on the side for some friends where I'm like, oh, you say that, and now I have a whole new plot arc I can introduce. Hell yeah.
Yay! You're welcome, those players. Uh, I mean, I feel like could be mage. It could be like some sort of marauder or Nafandi mage that is actually smart and not crazy. But I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean maybe, but also I I feel like if he was a mage, uh, even though the cult is obviously really big, I feel like he would have something more going on than just the cults, and it doesn't seem like he does.
Well, there are those possible connections to like towards the Lupines and the Linnaeus Society. I mean, they were possible connections. Hold on, I will be right back. I need to go use the restroom really quick. So, do you guys have like any questions for each other about like the episode or like things going on?
I am curious. How do you, Piper? Do you think? I say Piper, Termite. Do you think that Piper knows? Not that Piper knows. Sorry, rephrasing. Do you think that Piper knows? I do. I have words. I have a question. It'll come out in the right way eventually. Do
I
you
believe
think
in
that
you.
Briar knows what Piper is up to, or do you think that they're just following breadcrumbs, trying to get close and see what's up? Like, how much do you think Briar knows?
I think that at least right now he's just following breadcrumbs and trying to find her. Um, because up until recently, she has been very careful about making sure her tracks are covered. Um, but that hasn't really been an option since they had to, since her and Isabel flew to Jacksonville. Um, like there's footage of her at the airport on both sides, um, both at the airport in California and in Florida. Um, but I think if he actually knew what she was up to, he would be on his way to her instead of trying to take out any connections she may have. Because the vendetta that the organization has is very personally against her because she did some things that they didn't like.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Now, for our most important one ever. What do we want to ask BP?
Most of the questions I want to ask BP, I know her answer will be, I can't tell you that.
The problem is the few questions I can think of that I would be like, I want to ask BP. I had the pleasure of learning the answers to some of the things I want to know by way of SPC fill-ins, and getting to sit in and listen during like while we were all, being kind of figuring out who's playing who and all that deal. So like, oh man, what about? Oh wait, no, fuck, I actually do know that question. Shit, kind of deal.
Fair. That's totally fair.
I am very curious. What happened to Rosanna when she passed out?
I can't say.
So here's
I'm
the
not at
thing.
liberty to
I,
say.
I, as a player, have some ideas, but I don't actually know what happened.
I will have to say, unfortunately, you will not find out until at least next week or until we get to the end of the season, because I am not at liberty to say.
I get the feeling we're gonna find out at least partially here in the next episode.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
I was under the assumption, just because of everything, that next week Rosanna wakes up and we figure out kind of what happened. But hearing you say potentially not till the end of the season is interesting. I have more questions now.
Well, everyone has secrets.
Everyone has secrets, and some of those secrets are less secret than they should be. There were discussions that happened that gave a pretty clear idea that something very bad happened.
I can neither confirm nor deny. I do. Okay, so I was just looking back. I do have our tentative guest list for next week. Do you have any questions for Aubrey or Legacy? Not about what happened during her sleep.
I am a little curious what Isabel's opinion of Piper as a person is, because I feel like there are definitely some similarities between the two of them, but at the same time there are some very drastic differences. So I'm just curious how she feels about Piper.
How does she feel about the how do you feel about the witch doctor? How does she feel about the witch doctor?
um, um, Also, yeah, how does she feel about the fact that she's basically not allowed to be near Piper for long periods of time now because who'd have thunk Piper is apparently a magical dead zone, which is fun.
I mean, yeah.
It's a great party starter for mages.
Right. How does Piper feel about being a magical dead zone?
She's very confused. She has no idea how the fuck it happened. But for right now, it is a good thing, at least to her, because there's a lot of magic flying around, and if it kind of just fizzles out when it hits her, it means it's less likely to kill her.
Well, it depends if gun shop turns out to being, gun shop and then bullet supplier.
I said the magic is less likely to kill her. She's still just as vulnerable to guns.
It depends on the gun and the bullet, World of Darkness, talons, fetishes, trinkets, other magically imbued things.
Something technology. What is technology if not just sufficiently advanced magic?
That
too. that is Piper's that is Piper's whole thing. She's got lots of technology that does very fun things that shouldn't be possible, and people just don't ask questions.
I mean, maybe you're just very high up technocracy. Who fucking knows?
I sure as fuck don't.
I mean, in my experience with Mage, I don't know of anything that could just be a dead zone for mages, but I don't know a lot about Mage because Mage is
Mage is crunchy.
Mage is crunch. Mage is crunchy. I think it's the epitome of crunch, at least for World of Darkness, because that is a fucking 600-page book or something like that, and it's insane.
One day I will read any of the Mage games, any of them. One day. So far I have tried, and my eyes glaze over by the time I hit the second chapter or the second section of the book, and I'm like, you know what? We're going to put this down and try again later.
That's the correct reaction to mage. Just let that keep happening.
I feel like at some point I need to at least read I need to read a little bit more into it, enough that I can incorporate it into my games a little better than I have. So far, anytime I need to deal with mage stuff in my games, I reach out to some of my friends who know the system much better than I and go like, "Hey, so give me the TLDR on how I can do these things."
Well, sometimes it just does boil down to just because they can.
Quite literally, yeah.
Fair enough.
Mages. I feel like this has been a common topic for the last few episodes of After Dawn. Is mages just extremely complicated and hard to get into?
Now I'm wondering how they are going to do it in a 5th edition. Like with how much they've tried to make things overall more simple, I'm curious to see what they do with Mage 5th Ed, if and when they get to it.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing. The guy who originally worked on Werewolf, who was updating Werewolf for 5th edition, was removed from the studio. So we don't know.
I had not. I have so much news to catch up on, dear God.
Yeah. The guy who did Werewolf 20th and Mage 20th was working on Werewolf 5th. So presumably they would have also been working on Mage 5th.
Yeah.
And there are some unfortunate things that they decided to put into Werewolf and Mage 20th edition because they could. That required quite a lot of reworking in modern day. So, we'll see. We'll see if they actually push it too. If they were working on it, we'll see if they're actually pushing out the dates on that, like they, in my opinion, should have done for Werewolf. But who knows? Anyway, as we are going off on tangents about other things now, I think it is a good space to wrap things up. Thank you for listening to After Dawn. These episodes are dropped on Thursdays at noon for our $5 and up tiers on Patreon. They're released to the public 1 month later. And if you're listening to this the month later, think about subscribing to Patreon so that you can catch up and be up to date with your talk show news for Hallowed Haven Studios. Bye.
Bye.